Now what I like to do, first of all, is when you're riding, before you ride your bike, take some tape. This is ordinary 3/4 inch tape. And what you want to do is you want to make a mark on your throttle grip here. You want to put your tape right here. You want to take a black marker and you want to have the start of your throttle throw here, 1/4, 1/2, and full. Then you want to put or you can put a piece of tape here. So what you do when you go out driving to test your jetting, you want to see where your bike lags. Is it you're at the start, between 1/2 or 1/2 to full? And so that's an easy way of doing it. Then what I like to do is usually on your needle jet, remember if you raise the jet, let's see if we got, this is your jet right here. Now let's put it this way. If you raise your jet, which is up here, the adjustment's up here inside this throttle cutaway thing, then your jet is tapered right here into the emulsion tube, and your main jet is right down here. So if you raise your jet, you'll have to use less effort and less lift in order to get more fuel out. So say if you're starving for fuel at 1/4 to 1/2, then if you're starving from fuel from 1/4 to 1/2, what I like to do is I will leave the CARB stock, leave the jet stock, write it down. Then I will take it out for a ride. And the carburetor there's two different kind of noises it makes. Once that you give it gas, it starts to go lean. It makes a really weird wah sound. Now, also, it makes a sound like that when it's too rich, or if the needle jet is set too high. But the sounds are two different. One is a flooding sound and one is a lean sound. But they're very close. You'll have to just go through it. And then you may have to take the carburetor top off right up here about, I don't know how many times to adjust it. Now, if you take the needle valve, which is here, the needle, jet needle, and if you raise it to its highest limit, which will be, it has 5 adjustments, and if you put the circlip to the lowest adjustment, that means the needle is at its highest position. If you do that and at wide open, the carburetor is still running lean, then what you have to do is take the jet needle, put it back to the neutral position or in a 3 position with the circlip, and go back down here to this jet and go 1 jet higher. And as you go 1 jet higher, then you'll have to go out and ride again. And since you have this on the neutral position and you have a larger jet which allows more fuel to come up here, you may even have to lower the position or go in you're in the 3 position, you may have to go in the 2 position or the 1 position, which will lower the jet because you've got more fuel coming up the emulsion tube. And what your goal is to get 15 parts air to 1 part fuel. Now that's the trial and error method. That's which most people use, which is fine. There is another method which is more, there is one more method which is more accurate. which I'll explain. Costs a little money, and I've never done it, but that'll be the next thing, because I know I'll do it. Is what you get is you go down to Summit Racing, and at Summit Racing you can get an air fuel monitor gauge, which is really cool. It fits right up here, or you can get a handheld one too if you don't want to mount it to your bike. It comes with the gauge, which is electric, and has like a bunch of little, some of them have a bunch of little green and then yellow and then red dots, and they go up and down as your fuel air mixture goes through your acceleration cycle. The other thing the fuel air meter has is an oxygen sensor that you can put in somewhere on your pipe. Now I'm not sure where the best place to put it in on your bike, but it comes with a hexagonal, what they call a bunghole, and you weld it to the place. I don't think you want to go up into the cone resonator at all, or the I forget the name. Anyway, once you have that welded access hole, the K&N filter comes with the oxygen sensor, which is about probably, I don't know, 2 inches long and about big as around my finger, and you screw it in here. And what that does is that oxygen sensor, which comes in a lot of cars, but what it does is it sniffs out the exhaust, and it can tell how much fuel and air is in that exhaust. And that electronically is sent up to the gauge right here, and you have these little lights that are going back and forth, back and forth. So you can be riding along at neutral, and the lights may come up. They'll go from red, green, yellow, and you want it basically right in the 14 to 15 to 1 range. And it's about $200 gauge, I think, gauge assembly. And that's one way of doing it. I haven't done it that way, but that's the way I'd like to do it. Because on these motors, we're using so many different components and changing all the parameters and variables that the Honda designed into them. But that's the fun part about this little bike. And I would suggest all of you to watch a movie that's close to my heart, which is very funny, but very accurate and very true story. And it's about, it's called Building a Faster Indian, where a gentleman who was my age or a little older in Australia, and Australians are a genius at a lot of things, and God bless the Australian SAS. If I ever go into battle again, I want them backing up my ass or fighting right beside me. That's a kick-ass fighting force. Anyway, it's about an Australian that had a 1921 Indian motorcycle, and he spent 18 hours a day working on it. And he made it to the, every year he'd make it a couple miles faster. And then so he'd take it to the Bonneville Speed Trials in Utah, and he made a world record of 200 miles an hour or something like that. But it's a great movie. Anyway, that's my take on jetting.